I want you to picture something. You're sitting in a conference room. The fluorescent lights are humming. Your boss is talking. No, not talking. He's performing. He's raising his voice, pointing fingers, telling you in front of 3 other people that your work isn't good enough, that you're lucky to have this job, that he's running out of patience with you. And you just sit there. You nod. You say, I understand. I'll do better. You swallow a whole. Every last word. And the worst part isn't what he said. The worst part is you knew, somewhere in the back of your chest, exactly why you sat there and took it. Friday is 4 days away. Your rent is due on the 1st. Your car payment hits automatically on the 15th. You have maybe $200 in your checking account right now, and if that direct deposit doesn't land, the whole structure collapses. So you nodded. Of course you nodded. You had no choice. That feeling, that specific hollow, nauseating feeling of having no exit, is not a personality flaw. It's not weakness. It's not something therapy fixes. It's a math problem. And the answer to that math problem has a name. It's called a 3-month cash reserve. And it will change your life in ways that have absolutely nothing to do with emergencies. Most people hear emergency fund, and they picture car breakdowns and hospital bills. They think of it as insurance, something you build, put in a drawer, and hopefully never touch. That framing is not wrong, but it is dangerously incomplete. Because what a 3-month cash reserve actually does, what it quietly does every single day once you have it, is give you back something that most employed adults have completely surrendered without even realizing it. It gives you the ability to walk away, not just from jobs, from negotiations, from bad deals, from relationships with people who know you're trapped. The moment you have 3 months of living expenses sitting in a savings account, something shifts inside you. Your posture changes. Your voice changes. The way you look at your boss changes. You stop managing your fear and start making decisions based on what you actually want. But before we get to that, before we talk about what this reserve does to your psychology and your career and your earning potential, we need to talk honestly about what building it actually looks like. Because most financial advice skips the hard part. They tell you to save 3 to 6 months of expenses, pat you on the back, and move on. They don't tell you what the middle feels like. They don't tell you about the math that makes the beginning feel almost impossibly slow and the end feel almost effortless. Let's say your monthly expenses are $4,000. Rent, food, utilities, transportation, minimum debt payments. The real number, not the number you tell yourself when you're feeling optimistic. For $1,000 a month, that means you need $12,000 in liquid cash. Not invested, not in a retirement account. Sitting in a high-yield savings account, available within 24 hours if your life falls apart. $12,000. For a lot of people reading this, that number feels like a different country, like something other people have. So let's break it down into what it actually requires. If you can save $500 a month, which is genuinely hard for a lot of households, but let's use it as our baseline, then your first month, you have $500. 2 months in, $1,000. 6 months in, $3,000. A year in, $6,000. You're halfway there after 12 months of discipline. That's discouraging when you say it that way. 1 full year of effort, and you're still looking at a $6,000 gap. This is the moment most people quit. Not because they're lazy, because the feedback is too slow. You are grinding. You are sacrificing. You're saying no to dinners and weekend trips and things you actually want. And the number is barely moving relative to the goal. It doesn't feel like progress. It feels like running in sand. But here's what nobody tells you about month 13. Month 13, you're at $6,500. Month 14, $7,000. Month 15, $7,500. And now something invisible but real has started working in your favor. That account, if it's sitting in a high-yield savings account earning 4 or 5% annually, is quietly generating somewhere between $25 and $30 a month all by itself. That doesn't sound like much, but that's 0.5% of your monthly target. That's money you didn't earn with your labor. That's the first whisper of momentum. By month 18, you're at $9,000. The account is generating $40 to $50 a month without you touching it. By month 20, you're at $10,000. By month 22, you are $11,000, and that savings account is now producing close to $55 every single month, automatically, silently, without you doing anything other than leaving alone. You need one more $1,000, 2 more months, and then you're done. 2 years. 2 years of $500 a month, and you have crossed into a different category of human being. Not because you're rich. You're not rich. $12,000 is not wealth. But you're no longer financially fragile. And financial fragility, not poverty, not low income, but fragility is what puts you in that conference room, nodding, swallowing words you should never have to swallow. Now let's talk about what happens after month 24. Let's talk about what changes. The first thing that changes is the conversation you have with yourself at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. Most working adults between the ages of 30 and 50 have a version of this Sunday night conversation. It sounds like, I hate this job. I hate my boss. I hate getting up at 6:30. I hate that meeting on Tuesday. I hate how I'm treated. But I can't leave. I can't afford to leave. So I'll just deal with it. That conversation is what slow despair sounds like. That conversation is what gradually turns someone who was once ambitious and energetic into someone who is just trying to survive the week. When you have $12,000 in a savings account, that Sunday night conversation changes. It becomes, I hate this job. I hate my boss. I hate getting up at 6:30. But I could leave. I could actually leave tomorrow, and I'd have 3 months to figure out what comes next. So when I go in on Monday, I'm not going in as someone who is trapped. I'm going in as someone who is choosing for now to stay. That shift from trapped to choosing is everything. That shift changes how you walk into the room. Here's what the research on negotiation tells us, and what anyone who has ever negotiated anything with genuine leverage already knows instinctively. Desperation is visible. You cannot hide it. When you need the deal, when you need the job, when you need the yes, the other person feels it. They may not be able to articulate it, but they calibrate their offer to it. They push harder. They concede less. They know you'll take what they give you because you have to. And you do, because you don't have a walkaway number. You don't have an exit. You're negotiating with your hands tied, behind your back, and hoping they don't notice. But the moment you walk into a salary negotiation with $12,000 sitting in a savings account, you are a different negotiator. You are not desperate. You're not performing calm. You actually have it. When they come in low, you don't panic. You counter. When they push back, you hold. When they say, this is our final offer, you look at it with actual detachment and decide whether it meets your number. And if it doesn't, you have the ability, the real, actual, funded ability, to say no thank you and walk out. That ability, even if you never use it, even if you never once actually quit a job because of it, restructures every single professional conversation you have from the inside out. This is the confidence feedback loop, and it works in a way that sounds almost too clean to be true, but it is completely, mechanically, boringly real. When you stop operating from fear, you start behaving with confidence. When you behave with confidence, the people around you, your boss, your colleagues, the hiring manager, the client, respond to you differently. You ask for the raise. You get it, or at least you get a real conversation about it. You push back on the impossible deadline. Your boss adjusts it, or at least respects you more for pushing. You advocate for your own ideas in the meeting instead of waiting for someone else to say them first. Your ideas get heard. You get noticed. You get promoted. You earn more money, which means you save money faster, which means your reserve grows, which means your confidence deepens, which means the loop accelerates. People think career success is mostly about skills. Some of it is, but a significant, underappreciated, almost never discussed portion of career success is about operating from a position of stability rather than desperation. The person who gets passed over for the promotion year after year is often not less talented than the person who gets it. They're often more afraid, more visibly anxious, more willing to absorb poor treatment because they feel they have no choice. And in a tragic, circular way, that fear, which came from financial fragility, keeps them financially fragile because they keep taking whatever they're offered instead of negotiating for what they're worth. The 3-month reserve doesn't just break that cycle. It reverses it. It takes the exact same person with the exact same skills and the exact same job, and repositions them inside every professional interaction they have. Not because they've become someone different, because they can finally behave like who they already were. Let's go back to the math for a moment, because there's something important we haven't said yet. Once you have your 3-month reserve built, you stop. You don't need to keep feeding that account. You let it sit. You redirect those $500 a month, or whatever your contribution was, somewhere else. Maybe toward retirement. Maybe toward investing. Maybe toward your next goal. But the reserve just stays there, growing slowly on its own, requiring nothing from you. And every year that passes, it gets slightly larger, slightly more capable of covering your expenses without you adding a single dollar to it. At 5% annual interest, $12,000 becomes $12,600 by the end of year 1 without you touching it. In year 5, without any additions, it becomes around $15,300. In year 10, it's nearly $19,600. You build it once. You pay the price once. And it keeps working. But here's the question people always ask at this point. What if I need to use it? What if the emergency actually happens? What if I lose my job, or get sick, or the car dies and the medical bill lands in the same week and the whole thing gets wiped? Then you use it. That's what it's for. You dip into it, you cover what needs to be covered, you survive the thing that would have destroyed you before. And then you start rebuilding. Slower this time, probably because life is messier now than when you built it the first time. But now you know you can do it because you've already done it once. The first build teaches you something that no book, no podcast, no piece of advice ever could, that you are capable of sustaining discipline over time in service of something that matters. That knowledge does not leave you. Even when the account is depleted, you still carry the proof. And practically speaking, most people who build a 3-month reserve never fully deplete it, because the psychological transformation that happens during the building process, the way you start making decisions differently, negotiating better, tolerating less, earning more, means that by the time an emergency hits, you have more income than you had when you started. You have a better job, or a higher salary, or a side income you built because you finally had the mental bandwidth to think about your future instead of just surviving your present. The reserve creates the conditions for the reserve to survive. Now let's talk about the version of this story that nobody wants to hear. Some of you are reading this with $400 in your checking account and 3 maxed out credit cards and a car payment that's already 10 days late. For you, $500 a month doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like a fantasy. It feels like advice designed for someone else, someone with a little more room, a little more cushion, a little more luck. And I understand that feeling. I'm not going to tell you the path is easy or that the math works the same for everyone, because it doesn't. But here's what I will tell you. The goal is not to immediately save $500 a month. The goal is to build the habit of saving before you spend. Not after, before. Whatever your number is, $25 a month, 50, 100, the discipline of putting something away before you pay for anything else is the foundational behavior that everything else is built on. Not the amount, the behavior. The person who saves $25 a month for a year has $300 at the end of it. That's not 3 months of expenses. But it's also not nothing. It's 1 car repair that doesn't go on a credit card. It's 1 month's worth of a small buffer that means 1 bad week doesn't become a catastrophe. And more importantly, it's 1 year of evidence. Evidence you gave yourself that you can do this, that you have the capacity to delay, to prioritize, to choose the future over the present, even when the present is hard. Most people underestimate how much that evidence matters. They look at $300 and see almost nothing, but they've actually built something more valuable than $300. They've built a savings habit in a brain that didn't have one before. That habit, once installed, once real, once confirmed by a year of behavior, tends to accelerate because income goes up over time for most people, because expenses fluctuate, because one day, almost always when you least expect it, there's a window, a month where the car didn't break down and the medical bill didn't come and you had $300 extra, and instead of spending it, you just put it in the account. And now you have $600, and you feel something you haven't felt in a while. You feel like this might actually happen. That feeling is not small. That feeling is what powers the second year. and the third, and the month when you finally look at the number and realize you're at 11,500 and you only need $500 more and you just need to not spend that much this month. And you don't. And at the end of the month, you log into your savings account and the number says 12,000 and something in your chest releases. Something you've been holding for years, maybe your entire adult life, just lets go. Because you understand, maybe for the first time, what it means to be the kind of person who cannot be held against their will. Not by a job, not by a contract, not by a boss who raises his voice in conference rooms because he knows you can't afford to say anything back. You can walk away. You have the specific, concrete, dollar-denominated ability to stand up, push your chair in, look that man in the eye, and say, "This is not how I work." And whether you actually say it, whether you leave or stay or find something better before you leave, none of that matters as much as the simple, quiet, powerful fact that you could. 3 months, $12,000, or whatever your version of that number is. 2 years of $500 a month, or 4 years of $250, or 18 months of $800. The timeline is yours, and the timeline is flexible. But the destination is fixed. And on the other side of it is a version of you that operates differently in every room you walk into. Not louder, not more aggressive, not reckless or arrogant or willing to burn things down for the sake of it. Just free, just genuinely, mathematically, unambiguously free. Start tonight. One account, one automatic transfer, one number, however small, that goes in before anything else goes out. Not because it changes everything immediately. Because in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years, when you're sitting across from someone who thinks they have power over you, you'll know something they don't. You can leave whenever you want.